Hello, my friends. We are on this fasting journey, and this is number 5 of the 11 fasts that I'm talking about, starting from what I consider the easiest, maybe moving through to the most challenging at the end. This is a raw food fast. Okay, so we just spent last couple talking about warm cooked foods and khichdi. Now we're going to talk about raw foods. It's kind of the next level up. A raw food diet or a raw food fast or a raw food cleanse, very popular in the health world today. Amazing benefits, I do believe in it. It's living food. It contains all its enzymes intact. It's the original way God designed it before being heated or processed or anything like that. So I get it. I totally get all the amazing benefits to eating raw foods. But I also will say it's not for everyone. A lot of people need warm cooked foods because of where their health at, their body's at, their environment, their culture. There's various reasons, okay? So one plan isn't for everybody, although raw foods are amazing. This was the original Garden of Eden diet, so I believe it is amazing. I have a personal amazing story about how I actually came to the Lord through somebody reading Genesis 1:29, which says, "And God said, see, I have given you every herb that yields seed, which is on the face of all the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed. To you it shall be for food." And at that moment, the Holy Spirit entered my body. I felt like I was floating. It was undeniable. I gave my life to Christ. Boom. 11 years later, here we are on this journey. So we are highly energetic creations of God. Raw foods have high energetic vibration. It resonates with our body. Raw foods are probably the best ideal food for human beings. I will say that, I will admit that. But again, it depends on the situation, where your health's at, whether you're thin or not, whether you're hot or cold, where you live. There's so many factors to health. But it might be that you can transition towards a raw food diet once your health gets better. The cleaner and healthier you become, you might find you actually love and crave raw foods even more. Maybe in the summer when it's 100 degrees, try being a raw foodie for a month or something. See how you feel with it. As a personal testimony, I feel really good when I eat raw foods for an extended period of time. This is something that really happened to me. I ate raw for 2 weeks, only raw, because I'd never tried it. I've always been a kind of combination. I ate only raw for 2 weeks, and I went to a restaurant who served super clean food. It was like a quinoa veggie bowl. And I ate that meal. It was a warm cooked meal. First one I'd had in 2 weeks. I literally felt exhausted, like I could take a nap. I felt like my life force just drained out of me. It was wild. It was really interesting. It was quite an experience for me to feel all the energy and how good I felt on raw foods, and felt what one cooked meal felt like. It kind of made my body tank a little bit. So I just thought I'd share that. There's a really neat book written by a gal named Tanya Savasta called Quantum Eating, where it's all about raw foods and the benefits of raw foods, and there's some pretty interesting stuff in there. But for the sake of this is a way you can fast. You can fast on eating only raw foods. Okay, so who's going to benefit from this? People who have a hot body condition, people who want to lose weight, people who are struggling with high excessive weight, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. Various illness conditions can be healed through eating raw foods. Diabetes is a great condition to heal for raw foods. Cancer and serious debilitating health conditions, a lot of people are turning to raw foods to heal those types of conditions. There's dozens and dozens of documentaries, thousands of documented cases of serious conditions being reversed through a raw food diet. This is not anything new at all. It makes sense because raw foods are living foods. God's original creation, God's original design for foods. So the advantages: it's easy to know what to eat. If it's raw, you can eat it. Now, I'm not going to tell you to eat raw meat because that's kind of weird to me. Sorry if you're into that, but I think that's a little extreme. But it's not too hard to eat raw. You're actually not eating grains and a lot of other things because they're not raw. So it's great for people in tropical climates. It's great for warm weather conditions depending on where you live. It's great to combine raw foods with sunshine and exercise. I mean, if you go to Hawaii and eat raw foods and run on the beach every day, now you can heal probably of any disease condition doing that, right? I mean, that's like the ideal scenario for healing our bodies. Besides strict water fasting, just eating strictly raw foods is probably the best, healthiest lifestyle you could seek after for long-term health. All right, and this is a cool point I just want to make. People who eat raw foods need to drink much less water. I have gone oftentimes in the summer for extended weeks without drinking a single drop of water because I'm eating raw foods. Now, if you mow the lawn and it's 105 degrees and you're thirsty, drink water. But if you're eating fruits and vegetables and they're eating raw, you're getting perfect water in the form of fruits and vegetables. So if you're going to fast on fruits and vegetables and do a raw food diet, I would actually caution you against drinking too much water. I know, that sounds crazy, but you're getting hydrated through fruits and vegetables. You don't want to be overhydrated by drinking a gallon of water a day. That's why this whole thing about, oh, everybody should drink a gallon of water a day and all this stuff is totally ridiculous. I don't know where people come up with these things. And it's like mainstream information out there. It's just not true. If you eat raw foods, you might not need to drink water at all. If you eat only cooked foods or processed foods, you probably need to drink a lot of water or you're going to be in big trouble. So there's so many factors into these things. So I'm just cautioning you against drinking too much water if you're going on a raw food diet. Disadvantages. Raw foods are really challenging for a number of reasons. I'm going to give you a few of them. When you live in a colder climate, it's really hard to eat raw when it's cold outside. Choose it for a warmer month. You'll find that a lot of people advocating and promoting raw foods, they're in warm climates. I'm not going to name their names, but there's people who live in Arizona, California, Hawaii, and they're all about raw. Almost all the big people promoting raw foods live in these warmer climates, and I just think that's interesting. I haven't seen a lot of people bundled up in their parka in northern Michigan promoting eating raw foods. I'm not saying they're not out there, but I'm just saying culture, environment, season, different things play a role in whether you're going to choose to eat raw or not. Some people have weak immune systems all the time. They're cold. They have weak digestion. It's really hard to process raw foods. Your body has to actually warm up food before it can utilize it and break it down and digest it. So if you have weak body and weak digestion, you're eating raw foods all day, you're actually causing a worse condition in your body by forcing raw foods on a body that's weak already. Our family eats raw a lot, but we also eat cooked foods, especially in the wintertime, so it just varies for us. The food choices can be limited. You know, if people are only eating raw, it might seem easy to get bored. If you actually go to a really good raw food restaurant, it's amazing what they can do with raw foods. But if you're just trying to figure it out yourself and eating some fruits here and some veggies there, eating salads, it can get a little bit boring. People have infectious issues, so candida, yeast, fungus, mold can definitely overdo it, and they have to be really careful in eating too much fruit sugar, and juices and things like that. The other disadvantage is a lot of times people heavily rely on eating too many nuts and seeds and way too many heavy fats when eating raw. I would rather you eat way more fruits and vegetables and have fruit be your main energy source than eating too many nuts and seeds, because that's problematic. So foods to eat, all raw foods. Green foods are a staple. Juices, smoothies, anything green, all fruit, all vegetables, nuts and seeds. But as I said, I would be cautious in not overdoing it in the fats and the oils and the nuts and the seeds. Be careful on those energy bars, because those have a lot of fat and sugar in them. Sprouts. So people at alfalfa sprouts, sunflower sprouts. Sunflower sprouts are amazing. Sometimes people eat sprouted whole grains, so you could look into that, although I wouldn't overly recommend that unless you really know what you're doing. Raw dairy, technically yes, but it's really something that I would say to avoid. I do not encourage dairy on any healing program. It's mucus forming, it's congesting. I don't think it's a good quality food. So I would avoid dairy even raw. And as far as beverages and things go, it's really just water or juices. vegetable juices, ginger, maybe mostly vegetable juices with a little bit of fruit juice like, apple or orange or something for taste. Lemons are great. And then fermented foods, fermented sauerkraut, fermented coconut and coconut kefir. Those things would all be okay too. All right. So what to avoid? Anything cooked, anything processed. And like I said, I encourage avoiding dairy as well. Length of the fast. For a lot of people, a raw food lifestyle is a lifestyle. And they do it for long periods of time, sometimes for health situations, sometimes for moral convictions. You really want to try it for yourself to see how you feel. I feel like you need to give it a good month. So maybe in the summertime, you want to do this for a month, see how you really feel on it. Again, if you add sunshine and therapies and exercise to it, you can really change your life through eating raw food, even for a short period of time. So again, this is another plan, another type of fast that you can do for an extended period of time. You can easily do this for 40 days, especially if you live in a tropical environment, especially if it's summertime and you really want to go for it. This is a great way to do that. But you can also do it short term as well if you just want to try 3 days, 7 days, 10 days. All right, hot body or cold body? Raw food fast is definitely for somebody who either is already balanced or they're more on the hot side. I've seen many people cold and thin forcing raw foods because that's what everyone says they need to do, or that's what they were told is best, and they just feel absolutely miserable. So if you need to lose weight, if you're sweating all the time, if you feel like you need to turn the heat down, if you're complaining about the heat always being too hot in the car and in the house, you probably need a raw food fast. Might be a good way to look at it. All right, testimonial. I've seen a lot of people, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, fatty liver, reverse these conditions with raw foods. Heart conditions can be reversed with raw foods. Weight loss is actually really easy when switching to a raw food diet. So if you really want to lose weight, just start eating raw foods. It's amazing. I want to give this story of this woman. I'm not going to name her name, but she's from India. And she ate cooked foods her entire life. Every morning, big breakfast. She was overweight. She was really struggling with energy and diabetes and all kinds of things and how she felt. And I had talked to her about lessening it up, maybe even skipping meals. And I said, let's start with breakfast. Now, again, she had eaten a big breakfast every day her whole life, and she's in her 60s. So it's really hard to make those changes, right? So I said, just try celery juice for breakfast. And that's it. Eat a light lunch, eat salads, and dinner, also keep it simple and eat light and eat clean. But for breakfast, just have celery juice. After 1 month, she was on the phone call with her daughter. Okay, so her and her daughter. And I thought they were going to jump through the phone. They could not wait to tell me, oh my gosh, Vaughn, Mom, the daughter was saying, Mom has so much energy and she wakes up and she jumps out of bed and she just is ready to go. And like nothing they'd ever seen, how much energy she had just from making this one simple change of having celery juice for breakfast instead of eating this big, heavy meal for breakfast that nobody needs. Honestly, nobody needs unless you're going out working a manual labor job in a field for 10 hours. We don't need to eat these big, heavy breakfasts unless we're really, really super active. So breakfast is a meal that, it might be important for some people, but you can probably keep it minimal and keep something that keeps your energy up. So that was a really neat story. So a lot of cultures, a lot of people, like this woman, traditionally ate cooked foods in their culture, but sometimes because of health reasons or different change in season or living environments, they might need to try some raw foods for a while to help heal their body, and this was one of those cases that really worked for her. Okay, the last section is called Food for Thought. Maybe God's original design for the human body was raw foods. Maybe we're trying to eat everything else, and God wants us to come back to the garden and back to Him. What if God could be found at a deeper level with the food you eat? What if God desires us to experience food with Him by eating raw foods in their purest form? Maybe food could be communion with God. if we did it the right way. For many people, raw could be the right way to begin this experience and transformation. But even if you eat cooked foods, you may try to go for 50-50 raw versus cooked, or even the classic 80-20 rule where you try to do 80% raw. Many people I know, and most of them are not believers in the Lord. They believe eating raw food makes them more spiritual and makes them more connected with God. What might us Christians think about that? How does that make us feel if other cultures, other religions are feeling like eating a certain way or eating raw foods makes them feel more spiritual? It's just, I just want you to ponder that thought or that concept. So, in general, a raw food fast is great. It's original design. It might not necessarily be for everybody, but it's sustainable. It's something you can do long term. And if you're creative, it's actually delicious and amazing. It'll give you a real appreciation for food if you get away from junk food, man-made food, processed food, and start eating God's original design. You'll actually start to love and crave the original things of God and creation. So if a raw food fast is for you, I hope this encourages you to go for it.